listed on the website so that you can follow along. Tonight we start a new chapter. We will screen share and read the blue page, which will tell us some history on the chapter. Then the study will begin on page 1 at the beginning of Bill's story and end on page 3 where it says host of Fair Weather Friends. And do we have any announcements?
Hi family, my name is Jamie, very grateful recovered alcoholic, and not last weekend, the weekend before I was at Area 64 Assembly. I will have a DCM report coming out to you, and we will send it out probably a week or two before our next assembly, so that we can all talk about it at Group Conscience. So just be on the lookout for that. And if you're new to us, welcome. We're glad to have you. We also have a medical student with us tonight, which is absolutely wonderful because this is part of what we do. If you come to this group regularly and you like what we do and you want to become a home group member, we'd love to have you. All you have to do is send Trish your information in chat and she will gladly add you as a home group member. And that's all I have for now. So again, good evening family. My name is Jamie, very grateful recovered alcoholic, and welcome to the Lppbbsg Primary Purpose Big Book Study Group. To prepare for our Big Book study, let's get focused by having a 3-minute moment of meditation followed by our family's fog light prayer.
And for recovered alcoholic, my name is Trish. Thanks for joining us tonight. We're going to start the meditation in a minute, so please take a moment to get situated.
Yeah, back to me, duh. Please be aware of background noises when you are unmuted and sharing is to not distract others or possibly even yourself. We suggest we all observe proper Zoom etiquette. If you wouldn't do it in a live meeting, please don't do it here. And a friendly reminder, absence of profanity offends no one. Please keep yourself muted during someone else's share, and we will call on you in the order that hands are raised.
From the forward to the first edition of Alcoholics Anonymous, we of Alcoholics Anonymous are many thousands of men and women who have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. To show other alcoholics precisely how we have recovered is the main purpose of this book and of this group.
For the meditation, some suggestions are: focus on your breath and posture, breathe in God, and breathe out self.
Take this time to reconnect with God, let the craziness of the day drift away, and ask God to help you focus on the study.
And let's bring in the cool little monks to do what they do so well. And enjoy your time with God, folks. We'll see you in a couple of minutes. Well, computer is not cooperating. And for those of you who wish, on your screen in front of you is our family's fog light prayer if you'd like to join us. God, let your love shine through us like a fog light, so that those that are lost, sick, and dying can find your love through us. Amen.
Let's have our secretary's report. Come on in, Lisa.
Hey everyone, my name is Lisa and I'm your recovered alcoholic secretary. I've asked Billy to read the recovered statement. We read this notice to explain why many people in this group identify as recovered rather than recovering, and what it exactly means to be a recovered alcoholic. Take it away, Billy.
Thank you, Billy, an alcoholic. And this is a recovered statement. We are not cured of alcoholism. Recovered, but not cured. That presents conflict to some alcoholics. If we were cured, we would be able to drink responsibly. No, we are not cured. The allergic reaction to alcohol will remain with us for a lifetime. But we have been restored to sanity. That was the problem. The main problem of the alcoholic centers in his mind rather than in his body. That's on page 23. We are now sane where alcohol is concerned. Consequently, we have recovered.
Thank you, Billy.
You're welcome.
Thank you for joining us tonight. We meet every Tuesday starting at 5:30 p.m. Central Time with the Gerbil Fellowship Cage, where we chat for an hour before the start of the meeting. Feel free to bring side dishes to share with the buzzards. Our Big Book study starts promptly at 6:30 p.m. Central Time, and we ask that you be courteous and ready to begin at the sound of the foghorn. We take our Big Book study seriously. Because of this, chat will be disabled during the study. In the 1940s, when the only elements to sobriety were God, a Big Book, and one recovered alcoholic working with an untreated alcoholic, the success rate was as follows. From the foreword to the second edition of Alcoholics Anonymous, page XX, of alcoholics who came to AA and really tried, 50% got sober at once and remained that way. 25% sobered up after some relapsed, and the remainder, those who stayed on with AA, showed improvement. Can we have a show of hands of people joining us for the first time?
Not sure that anybody's here for the first time. Well, hi Liz, welcome.
Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm driving, so camera off. Liz alcoholic.
Be safe. Glad you're here, and we have a medical student, Angelique, with us as well tonight. So welcome, Angelique.
Welcome all. And then the recovered alcoholics. These are your potential sponsors. Is anyone celebrating a milestone this week?
Linda has her hand up. Are you celebrating a milestone, Linda?
No, next month.
Okay. Georgina has her hand up. What you got, Georgina?
Hi everyone, today I made 90 days. I completed my 90 and 90 and tomorrow we're back to it again. Thank you guys.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, that is wonderful.
Hang on a minute, Lisa.
Yep.
It's coming. There you go, Georgina. Congratulations.
Yay. Okay. If you should require a big book of your own, we have large print editions available that can be sent to you by buzzard mail. Delivery time questionable. Please remember to practice our seventh tradition by donating to the group address, Venmo, or PayPal posted in the chat and on the screen. Our suggestion is to purchase a big book and take an untreated alcoholic through the program of recovery. Please visit our website posted in the chat. Thank you and see you next week.
Thank you, Lisa. Well done. Thanks for standing in tonight. From Chapter 2, there is a solution. The tremendous fact for every one of us is that we have discovered a common solution. We have a way out on which we can absolutely agree and upon which we can join in brotherly and harmonious action. This is the great news this book carries to those who suffer from alcoholism.
This is an open meeting, and as such, all who have an interest in alcoholism and our program of recovery are welcome. Because this is an open meeting, you need not identify yourself nor your reason for being here if you do not wish to do so. Your anonymity will be protected. We ask that you protect ours.
While this is an open meeting, membership in this group is limited to those who wish to recover from alcoholism and have a desire to stop drinking for good and all. Each member of Alcoholics Anonymous is a potential sponsor of a new member and should clearly recognize the obligations and duties of such a responsibility.
Before we begin our study of the Big Book, last week we reviewed Tradition 6. Tonight, let's take a quick look at Tradition 7. Please refer to page 562 of Alcoholics Anonymous. And come on in, Larry.
Hello, I'm Larry, and I'm an alcoholic. This is Tradition 7 of the short. First, every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contribution. And on page 564, the long form, it says, the AA groups themselves ought to be fully supported by the voluntary contributions of their own members. We think that each group should soon achieve this ideal, that any public solicitation of funds using the name of Alcoholics Anonymous is highly dangerous, whether by groups, clubs, hospitals, or other outside agencies. That acceptance of large gifts from any source or of contributions carrying any obligation whatever is unwise. Then too, we view with much concern those AA treasuries which continue beyond prudent reserves to accumulate funds for no stated AA purpose. Experience has often warned us that nothing can be surely destroy our spiritual heritage as futile disputes over property, money, and authority. I was thinking about this seventh tradition, and there's a lot more to it, than one might think. For instance, it talks about the first, that we are self-supporting, and every AA group needs to get to the place that it is self-sustaining, and we need not rely on any one entity to supply that need. Just like no large contributions need to be accepted in, whether it be a group, whether it be a club, whether it be, especially from outside sources, but it even warns us from taking a too large of a contribution from even our members, because there are always to large contributions. And people have the ideal if they give a lot, then they have more say. And we don't need to get our groups to that point, because money seems to be a avenue in which when we have large accumulation of money in our beyond prudent reserves, especially, there seems to be always a disagreement of where that money is to be spent. It does recognize sometimes that groups might raise monies for a particular project. Maybe if it's a clubhouse to add on space, or add on a pavilion out back, an area in which they might meet and greet on an outside or barbecue area or something like that. If they're raising funds for a particular project, that's okay, but it needs to be earmarked. But to have funds just hanging there without a designated place to be spent is always dangerous. I went through an area in our intergroup in which we got involved in a fundraiser, and it was pretty innocent. It was with a particular establishment in which they sold tickets, and in which you got to play games, and it was at a reduced price when you bought the ticket, and a half of the money of the ticket went to the intergroup, our intergroup area of AA, and everyone pretty much was for it. I was not. There was 2, maybe 3 hands that were against this project. Because of the 7th tradition, we stated our needs. We were voted down. That's okay. There is group conscience always, goes for it. And the project was released, but because of it, not only did we associate our name with this establishment, but without knowing it, when they signed their tickets, when they signed their name to buy their tickets, nobody knew that the establishment was going to print their names along Alcoholics Anonymous names, heading as a group, and put it on the board at the establishment. So the names of the people were printed, and Alcoholics Anonymous. So anonymity was broken, and we were associated with this establishment. So you can see how easily sometimes, by trying to obtain funds, the name of Alcoholics Anonymous can be associated with an organization, even when you don't realize it's happening. So you got to be really, really careful on how you and associating with outside people when you're trying to get funds into your groups, or into your intergroups, or into your districts, or whatever. So that was one thing that happened to me, and it was fairly recent in the last year. Another thing I think on the seventh tradition that a lot of people may not take it as the seventh tradition, but I think it's prudent to the seventh tradition because we talk about money so much in the seventh tradition, but the seventh tradition of Longform says AA groups themselves ought to be fully supported by the voluntary contributions of their own members. Now, it then goes on about contributions and solicitations. So we take that as only thinking of money, but there are so many ways of voluntary contributions there are for groups. For instance, volunteering for doing the traditionalists in this group. Being an officer in our groups, secretary, treasurer, GCR, alternate GSR, all these things, and it should be done in a rotating manner because all group members should be involved in this because it's not just 1, 2, or 3 people. All group members should be a voluntary responsibility for their group. And I think that's a very valid part. It's not just our money contributions, it's also our time and our talents. There are people in our group that instead of giving money sometimes, they bring cans of coffee and stuff, into the group and give it, when they can be, but, there are ways to give to the group other than just funds, but, I just think that that's an important fact to also bring out into the seventh tradition. It is, I'll end with this, that when reflecting on these things, this is found in language of the heart, page 86. When reflecting on these things, why should not each of us tell himself yes? We AAs were once a burden on everybody. We were takers. Now that we are sober and by the grace of God have become responsible citizens of the world, why shouldn't we now about face and become thankful givers? Yes, it is high time we did. That's all.
Thank you, Larry. Well done. And now it's time for our weekly segment of Thatting in the Book. We hear a lot of stuff said in meetings that can't be reconciled with the program as described in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. One of those things we often hear is, there are no musts in the program. And Nancy is going to come in and tell us what it has to say on that tonight. Welcome, Nancy.
As the alcoholic, he should understand that he must undergo a change of heart. Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you, Nancy.
As we study, please make use of the pens, highlighters, and rulers so that you can share this experience with another alcoholic.
In order for us to stay focused as we study the Big Book, we use the Big Book Study Guide prepared by Joe and Charlie and Krusty Cliff of the Dallas Primary Purpose Group.
Tonight, as we said, there is no recap because we're starting a new chapter. And we will screen share the blue page, which will give us some history. And that will then be followed by the study portion, beginning on page 1 of Bill's story, and ending on page 3, and that will be read when we get to that point by Alyssa.
After the page is read, we will ask questions from the imaginary podium, starting back where our study portion was read by Alyssa. The answers will be one sentence unless otherwise specified. And multi-part questions are simply a one-sentence answer split up by commas, semicolons, hyphens, and other fun bits of punctuation.
Your favorite part.
Absolutely.
Basically, in English, what that means is we're going to read the material once through, then dissect the information a second time through the question and answer format. Notice how the language in the questions gives us a new light in which to consider the study material.
This is important because hearing the question and rereading the content offers a definite way of comprehending the material covered. After we've completed the study, we open up for comments, questions, observations based on what was just read. If you have a spiritual experience with this information, you are also free to share. Please keep your share on topic and under 5 minutes. At the 5-minute mark, you may hear a timer or a beep to let you know that your time is finished.
However, Big Book study is not therapy. Should you begin sharing on topics which are more appropriately discussed in a different setting, for example, with a sponsor, please do not be offended when we cut that conversation short and send the buzzards nipping at your heels. For that purpose, we have fellowship meetings before and after our study time.
You can never go wrong by commenting on the pages studied, which brings us to the words of one of our co-founders of Alcoholics Anonymous. Sobriety, freedom from alcohol through the teaching and practice of the 12 steps is the sole purpose of any Alcoholics Anonymous group.
But how did we get here? We didn't just randomly open the book tonight and say, let's study Bill's story. We are in our 4th season of going through the book, our 4th time of going through in this line-by-line format that we use. And we start on the title page, and we read all of our forewords, our preface, all through the Roman numbers and the doctor's opinion, and then we continue with that same reading all the way up to the end of page 164. We also read Dr. Bob's Nightmare, the traditions, and then we end our 96th week with the spiritual experience, appendix 2. And then when we get there, when we do that, we go all the way back to the beginning and start over. So we are on week 9 tonight of a 96-week study, so we're still pretty much close to the beginning. And I hope you keep coming, and I hope we keep seeing you. Thanks.
Thank you. And before we start the blue page tonight, we will need 5 or 6 virtual hands raised if you'd like to be one of our answer readers. Please, again, be aware that the first hour and a half of this meeting is recorded audio only so that we can put it on our website and our YouTube channel. And let me get to the page we need here, blue page, and this is not in your book, folks, so this is why we are sharing it, and Trish is going to read it. Hang on, let me get my screen set back up, Trish. Okay, Trish.
Okay. So week 9, chapter 1, Bill's story, the blue page, which is some history on the page. The main purpose of Bill's story is for identification, as are the other stories in this textbook. In the doctor's opinion, we learned the exact nature of alcoholism. We learned that we are powerless because of the allergic reaction the alcoholic has to alcohol, craving that comes with the first few drinks, and of the unmanageability resulting from a mind that cannot remember the allergic reaction. We start drinking again even though we sincerely promised never to do it again. In Bill's story, we will be 12-stepped by Bill W. himself. We will see the progression of the disease in his life. As we study his story, we should look for the effect of drinking on Bill that you too have experienced. We can see what happened to him and say to ourselves, yes, that happened to me too, or no, that hasn't happened to me yet. As we study his story, ignore the differences, such as he was from Vermont, he was a stockbroker, he was in a world war, etc. look only for the similarities of experience resulting from drinking. Some of these will be noted as we progress in our study of Chapter 1. We will also learn how Bill found hope as the result of a visit from his longtime friend Ebbie T., who became Bill's sponsor. While in Town's hospital, Ebbie visited Bill and helped him to take the actions of our 12 steps, which resulted in Bill having a spiritual experience. Bill tells us what his life was like after taking the action and lived 36 years without ever taking another drink. If we do what Bill did, then we'll get what Bill got.
And I've got a comment that I'll come in with. Look at the first 8 pages. Did I think, drink, or act like Bill W. did? Look at the remaining pages. Witness the coming of a miracle in Bill's life. Do I believe I can have this miracle too? Thank you, Trish. And it is time to invite Pinky Pickles into the room to read our study portion. Welcome, Alyssa.
Thank you, Jamie. Alyssa, recovered alcoholic. Chapter 1, Bill's story. War fever ran high in the New England town to which we knew. Young officers from Lppbbsg were assigned, and we were flattered when the first citizens took us to their homes, making us feel heroic. Here was love, applause, war, moments sublime with intervals hilarious. I was part of life at last, and in the midst of the excitement, I discovered liquor. I forgot the strong warnings and the prejudices of my people concerning drink. In time we sailed for over there. I was very lonely and again turned to alcohol. We landed in England. I visited Winchester Cathedral. Much moved, I wandered outside. My attention was caught by a doggerel on an old tombstone. Here lies a Hampshire grenadier who caught his death drinking cold small beer. A good soldier is never forgot, whether by death or by musket or by puff. Ominous warning, which I failed to heed. 22 and a veteran of foreign wars. I went home at last. I fancied myself a leader, for had not the men of my battery given me a special token of appreciation? My talent for leadership, I imagine, would place me at the head of vast enterprises, which I would manage with the utmost assurance. I took a night law course and obtained employment as an investigator for a surety company. The drive for success was on. I'd proved to the world I was important. My work took me about Wall Street, and little by little I became interested in the market. Many people lost money, but some became very rich. Why not I? I studied economics and business as well as law. Potential alcoholic that I was, I nearly failed my law course. At one of the finals, I was too drunk to think or write. Though my drinking was not yet continuous, it disturbed my wife. We had long talks when I would still her forbiddings by telling her that men of genius conceived their best projects when drunk, that the most majestic constructions of philosophic thought were so derived. By the time I had completed the course, I knew the law was not for me. The inviting maelstrom of Wall Street had me at its grips. Business and financial leaders were my heroes. Out of this alloy of drink and speculation, I commenced to forge the weapon that one day would turn in its flight like a boomerang and all but cut me to ribbons. Living modestly, my wife and I saved $1,000. It went into certain securities, then cheap and rather unpopular. I rightly imagined that they would someday have a great rise. I failed to persuade my broker friends to send me out looking over factories and management, but my wife and I decided to go anyway. I developed a theory that most people lost money in stocks through ignorance of markets. I discovered many more reasons later on. We gave up our positions, and off we roared on a motorcycle, a sidecar stuffed with tent, blankets, a change of clothes, and 3 huge volumes of a financial reference service. Our friends thought a lunacy commission should be appointed. Perhaps they were right. I had some success at speculation, so we had a little money, but we once worked on a farm for a month to avoid drawing on our small capital. That was the last honest manual labor on my part for many a day. We covered the whole eastern United States in a year. At the end of it, my reports to Wall Street procured me a position there and the use of a large expense account. The exercise of an option brought in more money, leaving us with a profit of several $1,000s for that year. For the next few years, fortune threw money and applause my way. I had arrived. My judgment and ideas were followed by many to the tune of paper millions. The great boom of the late 20s was seething and swelling. Drink was taking an important and exhilarating part in my life. There was loud talk in the jazz places uptown. Everyone spent in thousands and chattered in millions. Scoffers would scoff and be damned. I made a host of fair-weathered friends. Thank you for letting me be of service.
Thank you so much for being of service, Alyssa, and we are going to go right back to the beginning of Bill's story, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4 hands. We could use one more if somebody wants to, but if not, we'll go with what we have. And our batting to order tonight. Okay, Lisa, I will add you to the list. Perfect, thank you. So our batting order tonight will be Nancy, Kenny, Stephanie, William, and Lisa. And so, Nancy, we are going to kick it off with you, starting with the two-part question. A, where was Bill? Oh yeah, Stephanie, you'll have to unmute too. A, where was Bill when he had his first experience with alcohol? And B, what flattered these young officers?
Blood fever ran high in the New England town to which we moved. Young officers from Plattsburgh were assigned, and we were flattered when the first citizen took us to their homes, making us feel heroic.
Thank you. Kenny, coming to you, young man. Welcome. Thank you for your service tonight. What did he find in these homes?
Here was love, applause, war, moments of sublime, and interview the hilarious.
Thank you. And Stephanie, welcome. Good to see you tonight. What was his mood?
I was part of life at last, and in the midst of the excitement, I discovered liquor.
Thank you. Welcome, boy, can't even talk. William, welcome, young man. I was trying to make it all go together at once. Good to see you, my friend. Your question, what was his mood when he turned to drinking?
I forgot the strong word and the prejudice of my people concerning drinking.
Thank you. And Lisa, good evening, and thank you for stepping in as our secretary tonight. Good to see you, my friend. Your question is, when Bill was lonely and drank, did he do so to change the way he thought and the way he felt? 2 sentences, please.
In time we sailed for over there. I was very lonely and again turned to alcohol. We landed in England. I visited Winchester Cathedral. Much moved. Stop.
Yep. Thank you. And Nancy, coming back to you. When Bill visited Winchester Cathedral, what doggerel caught his attention?
Next mood I wandered outside. My attention was caught by doggerel on an old tombstone.
Read the whole thing.
Okay. Here lies a Hampshire grenadier who caught his death drinking cold small beer. A good soldier never forgot whether he died by musket or by pot.
Thank you so much. And Kenny, coming to you. How did it affect him?
Ominous warning which I failed to heed.
Thank you. And Stephanie, how old was Bill at the end of the war?
22 and a veteran of foreign wars. I went home at last.
Thank you. And William, a two-part question for you. Did Bill appear to think well of himself? And B, what gave him that idea?
I fantasized with myself as a leader, but had not been my battery given me a special token of appreciation.
Thank you.
Talent.
Nope, that's it, William. And for those who just joined us, we are on the first page of Bill's story right now. So Lisa, coming back to you, were his ideas a little grandiose?
My talent for leadership, I imagined, would place me at the head of vast enterprises which I will manage with the utmost assurance.
Could this be ego?
Maybe a little bit. And Nancy, coming back to you, was Bill willing to pay the price to be successful? 2 sentences, please.
I took a night law course and obtained employment as an investigator for a surety company. The drive for success was on.
Thank you. And Kenny, what did he want to prove?
I proved to the world I was important.
Could this be pride and ego?
Little bit. Stephanie, what did he become interested in?
My work took me about Wall Street, and little by little I became interested in the market.
Thank you. And William, was Bill confident? 2 sentences, please.
Many people lost money, but some of them became very rich. Why not I?
Thank you, sir. Lisa, besides the law, what did Bill study?
I studied economics and business as well as law. Potential alcoholic that I was.
Nope. Sorry. Just the law. 1 sentence. And coming back to Nancy, did his drinking interfere with his education? 2 sentences, please.
Potential alcoholic that I was, I nearly failed my law course. At one of the 5 I was too drunk to think or write.
Thank you. And Kenny, what did his wife Lois think of his drinking?
Though my drinking was not yet continuous, it disturbed my wife.
Did anyone ever fuss at you about your drinking?
Or we could say Lois was on his ass about his drinking. Stephanie, what did he tell Lois?
We had long talks when I would still her forebodings by telling her that men of genius conceived their best projects when drunk, that the most majestic constructions of philosophic thought were so derived.
Did you believe that you thought more clearly after a few drinks?
William, although he studied law, what really interested him? 2 sentences, please.
By the time I had completed the course, I knew the law was not for me. Inviting milestone around Wall Street had me in it grips.
Thank you. And Lisa, who were his heroes?
Business and financial leaders were my heroes.
And Nancy, coming back to you, what did the alloy of drink and speculation do for Bill? 4 sentences, please.
Out of the allies.
No, it's Nancy, Kenny.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Out of this alloy of drink and speculation, I commenced to forge the weapon that one day would turn in its flight like a boomerang and all but cut me to ribbons. Living modestly, my wife and I saved $1,000. I went into certain securities, then cheap and rather unpopular. I vaguely imagined that they would someday have a great rise.
That $1,000 would be about $22,241 in 2023, and I did just look it up. In today's value, it would be about $23,241.
Thank you, and everybody who's a reader, I would remind you that when you make comments while somebody else is reading, we can hear you. So, Kenny, now you get the question. Two-part question, my friend. A, were Bill's broker friends willing to help him? And B, was Bill hard-headed, strong, self-willed, and determined?
I failed to persuade my broker friends to send me out looking for factories and management. But my wife and I decided to go anyway.
Thank you. And Stephanie, what was Bill's theory? 2 sentences, please.
I had developed a theory that most people lost money in stocks through ignorance of markets. I discovered many more reasons later on.
Thank you. And William, coming to you. What did he and Lois do that seemed crazy?
We gave up our position and off we rolled. And what was the side?
Keep going.
The sidecar stuff with tent, blanket, and change of clothes, and 3 huge volume of financial requisite service.
Thank you very much. And Lisa, what did their friends think of this idea? 2 sentences.
My friends thought a lunacy commission should be appointed. Perhaps they were right.
Thank you. Nancy, coming back to you. How did they do? 2 sentences, please.
I had some success of speculation, so we had a little money, but we once worked on a farm for a month to avoid drawing on our small capital. That was the last honest manual labor on my part for many a day.
Thank you. And Kenny, how long did Bill and Lois stick with the motorbike episode?
We covered the whole eastern United States in a year.
Thank you. And Stephanie, did their investigation of companies on the East Coast prove productive?
At the end of it, my reports to Wall Street procured me a position there and the use of a large expense account.
Thank you. William, how were their finances by the end of the year?
The exercise of an option brought in more money, leaving us with a profit of $7,000 for that year.
And Lisa, did this adventure lead to great success for Bill? 2 sentences.
For the next few years, fortune threw money and applause my way. I had arrived.
Thank you. Nancy, coming back to you. Were people impressed with Bill's judgment?
My judgment and ideas were followed by many to the tune of paper millions.
Thank you. And Kenny, what period does this cover?
The great boom of the late 20s was seething and swelling.
Thank you. Stephanie, how was drinking fitting into Bill's life? 4 sentences.
Drink was taking an important and exhilarating part of in my life. There was loud talk in the jazz places uptown. Everyone spent in thousands and chattered in millions. Scoffers could scoff and be damned. I made a host of fair-weather friends.
Okay, you took the last question too, but that's perfect. So thank you everybody. Great job. You can all lower your hands and remute yourself. And Just a quick comment, and it kind of goes along with our what our blue page was. I hope that as we go through Bill's story, we will all be able to find something that's relatable to us. Not look for the differences, but certainly look for the similarities. So the floor is open to you. Come on in and let us know what similarities you have found in your life. Come on in, Steph. Good to see you.
Hi there, I'm Stephanie, recovered alcoholic, grateful and blessed. I have lots of notes on my pages, as most of you do. In the upper left-hand corner, look for similarities, ignore the differences. Well, there's not a lot of similarities between me and Bill right here, except for 3 little words. I discovered liquor. That's it.
Bam!
All I got.
Bam! That's powerful. Thank you. Thank you. The floor is open, ladies and gentlemen. Lisa, come on in. Welcome.
Hi everyone, I'm Lisa, I'm an alcoholic. I was thinking when you said look for the similarities, not the differences. When for many years in AA, that's exactly what I did. Well, the opposite. I looked, I was different. That didn't happen to me. Yet. The yet was so right. Because they were coming. And also on here, I didn't listen to the strong warnings and prejudice of my people, I had grandparents, uncles, older siblings. When I first started drinking, I got involved with. I didn't know at the time, but he was a full-blown alcoholic, and I just couldn't understand why he couldn't stop, why he wouldn't stop. But it didn't take me long. I was right up there within 4 or 5 years. And, many, many similarities, trying to make excuses to his wife. It calms me down. I get more done. Those are a couple of mine. Big lies that I told myself. Because if, a string broke or something when I was drinking, I was off. My mouth was gone. The ego, I'm all that, with different jobs. I was good at my job. When I was sober, when I was there, they won't fire. Got fired a couple times. And I was still, how can they do that? I can't believe they fired me. Just that awful, the awful way of thinking. That he almost failed out of his law school. I lost so much because of this, because of alcohol. I didn't actually, I gave it to him. And it's pretty cool. This was in 1929, and I felt these same things, and the fair-weathered friends. This was in the beginning. Oh, I thought I had a lot of friends, all my new friends. Yeah, if I had money. If I was buying, stuff like that. But, you know, and this went on. I mean, even though I stopped with the bar drinking many years ago, um, you know, I still lost. You know, still lost jobs, custody of my children. It's devastating. That is really hard to swallow, and I was so ashamed, and that just kept me drinking. You know, I thank God that I straightened that all out. And like I said, license a couple times. Friends, myself, and but I chose it. You know, and I never until I picked up this book, I had no idea. You know, and I still thought I was different because I could stop for certain amounts of time. You know, so I still had that, maybe I'm not, you know, type of attitude. And, you know, it just kept me keep going back. I'm so grateful for this and this meeting and the willingness to learn how to do life different, learn how to do things different. And yeah, that's it for me. Thanks.
Thanks, Lisa. Glad you are here. Sir William of New York, come on in. Welcome.
Yes, thank you so much. And hello, folks, to everybody. Sorry for coming in late, but I was on some other things. Other than it, but I'm glad to be here, and definitely, you know, I had to eat the deal I had there. I had to eat it, you know, and I love the part when you say uptown, when they chatted. In there was loud talk in the jazz place for uptown. Everyone screamed and violent and shattered ears, you know, and scarf would be damned. So I definitely, I did kind of all of that, you know, and playing the big shot is and lining them up, you know, and I love the lifestyle. I think I love the lifestyle more than the alcohol. I got alcohol trapped me. I got caught up in the game. The hunter got caught by the game, you know, so that's when my life started, you know, I did that. And then he said $1,000 for it. I just felt broke. He said $1,000, 42. So there's like $42,000, you know. So, but I came into the age with that same thing with the after being sober because we were talking about his dreams, his imagination. Nothing was reality as it is whenever I came to back home about this one. And one thing that I realized that I had burned a lot of money in the lifestyle, you know. So whenever I began to get sober, I went back and thank God for a sponsor and meeting and stuff. My sponsor never told me I couldn't have it. My sponsor told me something like this: make a list. You know, the top of the bar, and do something for do the things you need to do to stay sober for a day, you know. And if you got time to do the rest of that stuff, you're doing it. You know, so that took a lot of energy. It took a lot of what you call it out of me, you know. And I thank God it did. You know, what I realized, God always provided for me in my life. You know, a lot of time I just got in the way. You know, so whenever I get ego come in today, man, I have to always remember that I have a God that it stayed in for. So it took a while, since time to turn it down, you know, the good stuff. But I keep coming no matter what, you know. So thank you for allowing me to share that.
It's okay, Trish, I'll get it. Liz, good evening, welcome. Okay, Trish, you already got it, good. Welcome.
Thank you.
Liz Alcoholic, thank you for the format and the questions, and definitely did see very many similarities when I got in here. But the portion just read and reflected on, I mean, I could take any tiny bit of praise or recognition and blow that extremely out of proportion. Like, I'm not sure what Bill did in the war, but even the little bit of kudos, I could take that, and it would inflame my ego, and I would want more of that thing. I have a disease of more everything that feels good. So the line that I love is, I proved to the world I was important, And I don't know if I'm just a product of being raised in the 90s, but we were always told, you're going to change the world, everybody gets a trophy. And I'm sure that didn't affect everyone as it affected me, because my ego was primed to believe that, and I believed that and expected that of myself, and of course, I failed at changing the world or saving a third world country or whatever concept I had. And when those things started to slip out of my grip, right? Like, he goes to law school and he can't do it without drinking, and kind of decides, this isn't for me, this isn't good enough, I'm going to do it my own way, and gets on a motorcycle. Because I love this too, he assumes people fail at it because everyone's stupider than him. And he's smart, right? Like, he's smarter than everyone in the room. And so he's going to do it his own way. And just reflecting on it just now, like, that was my attitude coming into AA, for sure. Defiant, terminally unique, wanting to do it my own way, is just in my nature, and, proving to the world that I'm important. I've had to think about that a lot this year, because, like, why do I feel the need to prove myself to anybody? It's because I have a very low opinion of myself. And so I'm dependent on the opinions of others that I can manipulate, control and enjoy how people perceive me. Because I need to be, my value is based on how other people see me. Because I have a very low opinion of myself, naturally, right? The egomaniac with an inferiority complex. And, Bill doesn't come right out and say it, but, like, why the need to prove to the world, I think that's what I had. Again, thanks for all the shares.
Thanks, Liz. So glad you joined us. And Trish put our other meetings in the chat. Please come join us anytime. Always welcome back. Well, it's one toe tap and pickle. Come on in.
Here, Christian and alcoholic. And I love the way he kind of starts out. I was very lonely and again turned to alcohol. And I started drinking, or I told myself I started drinking, because I didn't feel like I fit in anywhere. I didn't fit in with my family, with my friends, with my acquaintances. And maybe if I could just drink like other people, I could go hang out in the bars with them and I'd get somebody to hang out with. And, that never worked because I was a stay-at-home drunk. I didn't go out much to drink, so that kind of backfired. But, feeling like I didn't fit in and drinking so that I could fit in was always a biggie for me. And then moving on to where he's saying, I proved to the world I was important. I was a dreamer like Bill was. I had great dreams, I had great ambitions, there were all these things that I wanted to do, and once I started drinking, all of that stopped. None of that happened. And even well into sobriety, it took a while for those dreams to start moving again. Because while I thought I could do these great things, I wasn't really sure that I could, so I'd rather not do it than to try it and fail. And the fair weather friends, I've touched on that, other people have touched on that. but I never really felt like I had good friends. I just wanted to fit in somewhere and thought drinking would help me with that. But I love how in the opening it talks about how we can look at what happened to Bill and say to ourselves, yes, that happened to me too, or no, that hasn't happened to me yet. And when I first came in, so much of what I heard was that I didn't do that, I didn't do that, I didn't do that. It took me a while to realize that all those things I didn't do were very likely to happen if I had picked up again. But at the same time, once I was able to get past the physical, I hadn't lost the job, I hadn't lost a car, but boy, I could relate to those feelings. So once I started keying into the feelings as people were sharing their story, that's when I really started relating. It wasn't the actions that I did that were the same as others, but the feelings, why I did what I did, were the same as why they did what they did. And the biggest thing I like, well, we haven't gotten there yet in the story, but it's in the opening, the hope. And at this point, Bill hasn't found the hope. He hasn't even realized he's lost the hope yet. But knowing that hope is coming, and that it was like that for me when I first got here. I couldn't recognize the fact that I had no hope. I didn't realize how hopeless I was, but I could see everybody else had that hope. I could see everybody else had their dreams. And through watching other people and seeing their hope and their dreams come alive, I was able to grab onto that and say, maybe this will work for me too. Thanks.
Thank you, Trish. Georgina, welcome. Come on in.
Hello everyone, my name is Georgina and I'm an alcoholic. So the question is, how do I relate to Bill? I would have to say when he describes how fun it was when he first started drinking when he was young. It was fun and he felt like he found life and, he was hanging with his friends, his wolf buddies, and he came home and, life, he's talking about the early 20s, 30s, right? And, Wall Street and he was just living the best life, according to him, but I also, I related to that and the fact that it did progress for me. It started off fun, hanging with my friends and going partying and stuff like that, but, my alcoholism just, took a whole different turn, and it definitely progressed. So, and I also just want to say on a side note, Lotus was just amazing to go with him on a bike for a whole year on a motorcycle just to help him with his dream and his, it was so amazing. The love that she had for Bill was just amazing. So, thank you guys.
Thank you, Georgina. Glad to have you, and again, congratulations on your 90. Come on in, Larry.
Yeah, I'm Larry. I'm alcoholic. Yeah, I can. There's several things I can relate to with Bill. One of the things is I can relate. In this story is traveling all over the United States, chasing money. In my work. Construction and one of the things and the outcome of that was the more money I made, the more I drank, but that was okay. At that point I was, all the people I was working with was also drinking, and we were drinking together. Drinking hadn't become a problem. I hadn't become so recluse yet. So it was okay, traveling everywhere and going different places all over the eastern United States. And then for a number of reasons, I needed to travel out west, and the job of my life as a scuba diver in Las Vegas, which was part of my trade, which I didn't even know was going to be part of my trade until I got out. I was in the plumbing industry. I was a pipe fitter plumber. And so I had diving certs, and I got the job. And, I was making more money than I ever made. And, it was then that I began to have the grandiose thinking. There were four of us that decided that we were going to start a business in Panama Canal of a sonar ship to survey the ships going through the Panama Canal, and so they didn't have to go all the way back to Miami to get a survey done. And we it was, and my part of it, to be part of the group, was to get financing. And I didn't know if I was going to be able to do it, but somehow, with a lot of effort and a lot of trial and effort, I procured the financing, and I got a financial group to back us, and we got the paper signed, and everything was, and we were just about ready to make it all final, and it all fell apart. One of the guys dropped out. He had all the diving certs that we needed to make this thing work, and it just seemed like, my whole world went down the drain. It was like Bill's dropping out of law school, but but I was going to find a way. I was going to find another way to be a millionaire, and I did. I found me a young lady in Las Vegas that was a millionaire, and I married her. I was going to find some way that I was going to be successful. I was going to be, I was going to be successful. And I got her somehow to say yes, and we got married, and I was living the life. I could talk the talk, and I could live in that thing. I didn't fit in. I felt like a redneck in Hollywood, but I made it work, and I smiled, and I did the thing, and it was all good until she found out that I was an alcoholic, and I was a true alcoholic, and I was doing some things that she just could not go with, and so she let me go, and it all went things. So of course, we hadn't got to the part of Bill's story that he was living the millions, and then he went down to the gutter. But I can relate to that part of Bill's story too. But the thing is, well, that's all I got.
Come on in, Timmy. I'll let you take it back over, Trish.
How's my pickle people doing tonight? Been a while. I miss you guys. Love you, Trish. How you doing, Larry? Actually, Bill's story brings tears to my eyes whenever I read it. I still have what they call where you what's the word? Kind of mourn alcohol, or grieve alcohol. Bill's story, it says that he discovered liquor at a very young age. I did, but the rest of the world didn't know it was law. But I found out on a very early age that I was already alone, and alcohol just allowed me to be comfortable in that. I never fit in the crowd. taking me to doctors and psychiatrists. You know, they pretty much thought I was crazy, and maybe they were right. But, you know, they didn't know it was alcoholism, and neither did I. You know, and then I still relate on a lot of things, you know, especially with the military. But because of my drinking, you know, I was kind of a wild man, and I had a choice, either go, you know, to prison or go to the military. So I chose military, and then when I got out of the military, I went to prison anyway. But that's alcoholism, you know, because when I come back to the States, booze was still my best friend. Now I've got, you know, this arrogance to me that nobody can whoop me, nobody can get to me, but I do have this talent for leadership. And, you know, and of course it was small business. I always had a business. But, you know, back then, now that I've, you know, done a little bit of inventory, I really wasn't good at business. I was just good at stealing people's money, acting like I was good at business. You know, and I was dishonest. Because today, you know, I work my butt off, and I'm very happy that I'm able to work. But I'm learning a lot of things, like Bill, you know, he was an entrepreneur. And, you know, I relate to the motorcycle because they were my kind of people, because they could drink a lot, like I did, and we fit in, you know, so I could, you know, still be that loner in a crowd. But I didn't have anybody judging me or giving me these many, many warnings that went on and on and on. But, you know, drinking was the biggest, most important thing in my life. And thank goodness that, you know, I finally hit a bottom where a higher power comes to me and allows me to do these inventories, like this story. Because, you know, I sit back some days on my inventory and I realize just how many people knew I was an alcoholic 40 years before I really said I was. And it breaks my heart. You know, that's the reason why I kind of grieve those things, because it breaks my heart that all the people that were warning me were actually the people that loved me. You know, the people that did love me didn't care. They were just like, go away. You know, don't come back. But the people that kept warning me, and I find out, you know, later on as I'm doing, you know, different things like events and stuff, that many people prayed me into this program. They knew about this program from the 80s. I remember coming into the program, you know, early on as a child, but man, there was no way I was going to listen to you crazy people. And here I was, I've been to the insane asylum, and prison, and military, and all these other things, but I'm calling you crazy. But it's definitely a good story. It is one that it gets a little deep for me. There's also another story in the back of the book. For some reason, it really affects me a lot. But I'm glad that I'm still in construction, is what I like to call it now. I'm still working. I'm getting better every day. I'm far away from being where I want to be, though. But I am glad that Bill and all these people come together and finally come out with a solution. You know,
Thanks, Timmy. Keep coming back, my brother.
sure.
Pinky Pickles, welcome. Good evening. Come on in.
Thank you, Jamie. Alyssa, recovered alcoholic. I kind of have a love-hate relationship with Bill's story, because when I think about my drinking and when it started and what alcohol stole from me, you know, because I lost a lot because of drinking. The most important thing was time. You know, when I think back to my first drink, I was 8 years old, and I was drinking regularly by the time I was 14. And it didn't stop until I was 37. I mean, there was periods I will say that my oldest daughter kept me sober for the longest time. It was 3 years while I was pregnant, and then the first 2 years of her life. But you know, that that's just proof that there's no human power that um, can keep me sober. My defense has to come from a power greater than myself. Um, and once I was able to accept that I was an alcoholic, because people had been outright telling me for at least 10 years, maybe even more. But when I say 10 years, that's when they started really getting involved and making sure that I wasn't hurting others. But the people around me knew it was a problem before I graduated high school. But I used the excuse that I had a strong work ethic, and every time I would, I was always excelling in positions, and I was always at the top. And I sat down with CEOs and owners of Fortune 500 companies, and I don't even have a business degree, and I was doing these things. So I was trying to manipulate the success and then justifying that it's okay that I'm like this because look at how successful I am. Look at the drive, and every time, I work, which, there was never a time when I wasn't working up until 2015 when I left the workforce. But, I started working when I was 16, drinking hard and play hard and work hard. That was my motive. And to think about when you did the numbers thing about what the equivalent of the money was, I wasted so much money on alcohol. And, today I don't even want the money back. I would never want the money back. Keep the money. I just wish I could have the education. But I don't want to live with that regret or that guilt. But the thoughts do come because I lost a lot when I was drinking. But I've gained a lot back since I've been sober. And I'm starting to see the light in the most important things that I've gained back. And it makes me work that much more. That makes me work that much harder at my sobriety. It makes me that much more dedicated. So that working hard is not towards the playing hard. It doesn't involve alcohol today. It involves being happy, joyous, and free, and using the tools that AA has given me, and allowing my higher power to guide me, and having the humility to say, hey, I don't have it all. I don't have, and that's okay, because God wants me to depend on other people. And that's something I wasn't willing to do before I admitted I was an alcoholic. So thanks for letting me share.
Thanks, Alyssa. Hi, family. My name's Jamie. Very grateful, recovered alcoholic, and I'll come in before we close out. Using one of Bill's lines here, that potential alcoholic that I was, I started failing out of school in the primary grades. And a lot of that was due to tragedies at home and being raised in an alcoholic life, being the product of untreated alcoholics. And, they kept passing me because they felt sorry for me. And by the time I actually hit the 10th grade, I was out of there completely, or more like asked to leave. And, hell, I've been working since I was 15 and lied about my age, all those things. And, but every job that I did, not every job, but the machinist, constructions, punch press setup, man, all of those things I excelled at very well, and it always put me in some sort of supervisor's position. Like Bill, I had an ego, and I had a big ego. Was the drive for success on? I don't really know that it was. I mean, I liked the success, but really, the drive for the next drink was on. And I realized early on that I had to keep myself in funds so that I could continue to drink. I absolutely love Bill's story. Many of us in this room sponsor others. Many of us have sponsors. At least I hope everybody does. And how many times have you worked, or even yourself said to somebody new, well, this is what you got to do? Well, Bill's example of this, he's not telling us what we got to do. He's sharing his own story with us. Classic 12-step calls. So when we get newcomers in our lives, maybe we need to approach it. Even maybe the court sent them, maybe Child Protective Services sent them, or however they got here, nudge from the judge, whatever. But when we start working with others, maybe our first couple of meetings with folks, we need to approach it as a classic 12-step call as well. This chapter, Ebby's showing us how he worked with Bill, which we'll get into in a few more pages. The chapter to working with others all give us an example of what we as recovered alcoholics are supposed to do. I got a lot of stuff painted on my wall, and I bet there's a phrase up there you can't find. You gotta. Well, it does say you gotta wanna, but it also says put pen to paper below it. But I can't say, I am blessed to work with others, and I never get to tell any of them, well, you got to do this and you got to do that. My responsibility is to help them find the pathway in life that is right for them. So this is a beautiful example. No, lots of things. I was never in the military. I can't even relate to that part. My father was. My father was an alcoholic in the military. One of the things that Bill is also showing us here, even though he doesn't recognize it yet, is he's beginning to show us the brokenness of his own life and the failures to heed warnings of his people, and the tombstone and that sort of thing. I have to ask myself, how many times did I fail to heed the advice of my people? All the time. But here's what I know for sure and for certain. Had I not taken the pathway that I had taken in life, I wouldn't be here today. There's two things that I have been a success at in my life. First one is being a drunk. I was extremely successful at that. And the second thing is being a sober member of Alcoholics Anonymous. And as a result of God bringing a broken shell of a human being to you guys, next week I will get to celebrate another year in this program, provided I don't pick up the first drink over ankle biters. Over ankle biters. I use this analogy, the ankle biters around our ankles, if we don't deal with them, they become the walking dead that consume our entire body and just eat us alive. Here's what I know. God brought a broken shell of a human being to you guys 12,775 one day at a times ago. And here's what y'all told me. If I got one of these and I got a sponsor and I followed the directions in here, I would never have to drink again. We have 5 more pages of Bill's problem before we get to the solution. But once we get to the solution, it becomes the example of how we too can become recovered. Thank you. God bless. I'm glad you are all here. And Trish, Angelique is going to send you a message for verification for her courses. Thank you, Angelique, and thanks for being here. And Trish is going to read us out, and then we will pray.
So from page 164, our book is meant to be suggestive only. We realize we know only a little. God will constantly disclose more to you and to us. Ask Him in your morning meditation what you can do each day for the man who is still sick. The answers will come if your own house is in order. But obviously you cannot transmit something you haven't got. See to it that your relationship with Him is right, and great events will come to pass for you and countless others. This is the great fact for us. Abandon yourself to God as you understand God. Admit your faults to Him and to your fellows. Clear away the wreckage of your past. Give freely of what you find and join us. We shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit, and you will surely meet some of us as you trudge the road of happy destiny. May God bless you and keep you until then.
Thank you, Trish. And folks, we got a real special way of closing out here at Primary Purpose, since we can't circle up like we do in a bricks and mortar group. We raise our hand in the screen and we get virtually connected. It's just our way of doing it. And after a moment of silence for the sick and suffering, those who are going to die from this disease tonight, please join us in the Lord's Prayer. So here's your moment. Thank you. Who will take us from shame to grace if we let her? Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in the heavens. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Thank you, folks.
Good night. Good meeting.
Thank you, Linda.
Good night.